You know, it's often said by world travellers that there's two ways of immersing yourself in a culture. One, learn the language. Two, eat the food. Hey up, Mr. Josh here, back again Thursday morning. And this is kind of an add-on to last Thursday's video where I was telling people don't go to English school, go on a coach trip. In fact, I'll put a link up here to that video in case you missed it. And if you have missed it, where you been? Come on, subscribe, you should watch these videos. So pretty much every time I've spoken to someone who's been to England, they always come back with the same thing. They say, the food was horrible, the food was bland, the food was tasteless, the food was this, the food was that, yeah. And I say to them, really? What did you eat? Oh, I don't know what it was. Well, what type of restaurant was it? Oh, it was an Italian restaurant. An Italian restaurant? Yes, an Italian restaurant. I had lasagna. Right, that's not English food. Yeah, well, I also went to a Chinese restaurant and the food there was just as bad. Right, okay, but that's not English food. So let me give you my, say, top 5 things that I think you should eat. By the way, if you're a vegetarian, just stop the video now. You're not going to like this. This is going to be repulsive for you. So vegetarians, go away. Just clear off and find someone else to bother. Have they gone? Yeah? Go on, sod off. Yeah, good, thanks. Anyway, so here we go. Things that you must eat in England if you want to immerse yourself in the food. Number 1 is a full English breakfast. So let's start with the morning, full English breakfast. Now, here's the funny thing about the full English breakfast. You can get it pretty much any time of the day. It doesn't literally have to be for breakfast time. And the full English breakfast, depending as to where you go, will be bacon, sausage, fried eggs, fried tomatoes, baked beans, black pudding, mushrooms and fried bread, maybe. Depending as to where you go, it's always going to be a little bit different, but that's a basic idea. It's a cholesterol heart attack on a plate, basically. And when you have this, you should have it with a big mug of English tea as well, builder's tea. And this will set you up for the day. You will have troubles actually getting out of your seat later because the weight of it will just hold you down. But what the hell? Live a little, you gotta die somehow. The other thing I always say to people when they go for a full English breakfast is don't eat these things in a hotel. Because in a hotel restaurant, they always do it in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's too clean. It shouldn't be like that. What you want to do is go to a small cafe where they do full English breakfast. And I say to people, the more disgusting the cafe looks from the outside, the better the food will be most of the time. Just look through the window at the cafes that have got lots of people in them. Even if they look horrible from the outside, go to the ones that have got people in them. Don't go to the clean one that's got no one. If it all looks clean and nice and modern, it's the wrong place. You want to go to the more disgusting end of town. And the breakfast you get more and it'll be better. I know this sounds wrong and crazy, but trust me, it's true. Seriously, it is. So having had your full English breakfast, the next thing you want is lunch. So why not have traditional fish and chips? So fish and chips traditionally is cod and chips in batter. Now you don't always have to have cod. You can usually have options. There's, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 different options of what you can have, but fish and chips is basically the same. And when you get your fish and chips, you have to have it covered in salt and with a ton of vinegar on it. And don't forget to ask for the little wooden stick for eating it with so that you eat it straight from the wrapper as soon as you get it. Don't go somewhere where you sit down at a table and eat it. Eat it straight out of the paper wrapper. That's how it should be eaten. And by the way, this is the English idea of chips, not what the bloody Americans call chips, which the English call crisps. Seriously, if there's anyone that needs English lessons, it's the bloody Americans. So next up, maybe it's like mid-afternoon, you're walking around and you think, I could do with something to nibble on. Get yourself a Cornish pasty. Now, you can get these in pie shops and sometimes convenience stores like the little Tesco mini marts or whatever. They do one, Ginsters make one. And the Cornish pasty can be eaten hot or cold. I'm easy, I don't mind. It depends how I feel as to whether I have it hot or cold. Now, a Cornish pasty is a kind of a funny half moon sort of shape. And the filling is meat and potatoes. Although saying that, you know, there's 100 different variations of this. And in fact, I do believe that sometimes you can even get vegetarian ones. Bugger. If you know any of the vegetarians I just told to get lost, call them back and tell them about this, will you? The reason for the funny shape of the Cornish pasty is that this was invented for the guys that used to work underground in the tin mines in Cornwall. Because their hands were dirty and they had no way of cleaning them, they hold the pie by that really thick crust and just eat the filling in the middle. And then the crust they would just throw it on the floor and let the rats eat it probably. But that's what the shape of it is. So when you're eating it, just eat the filling and don't worry so much about the crust if you don't want it. Just be like a tin miner and just throw it on the floor somewhere. So next, let's say it's the weekend. And if it's Sunday, you've got to have a Sunday roast. Now you need to find a pub that does real pub food. And in particular, one that advertises Sunday roast. Traditionally speaking, it's roast beef, potatoes, some vegetables, and a thing called a Yorkshire pudding, which is not a pudding, and then thick brown gravy sloshed all over the top of it. Yes, I know you're probably sitting there going, but trust me, it tastes better than it sounds. Really, it does. And it's another one of those really heavy meals that when you've finished eating it, you need help to get out of your chair. You know, it's a bit like the full English. You know you've had something to eat after you've eaten it. As I said, you need to go to a pub for this because going to restaurants for Sunday lunch is just, it's not right. It's wrong. Go to a pub that does pub food and have yourself a full Sunday roast. So let's say that you've had your Sunday roast. What do you do next? Well, of course, by the time you've finished, it's time for afternoon tea. And you've got to have yourself a cream tea. Now, if you're out in the sticks, and by sticks I mean you're in the countryside, if you go to any little village, you'll find a tea shop. And a tea shop will always do afternoon tea. And this is basically a large pot of English tea and scones, clotted cream, jam, and cakes and sandwiches. It's like a full little meal. And you have this in the afternoon at about, I don't know, say between 4 and 6. If you're not out in the sticks and you're in London, try and get afternoon tea in either the Savoy, the Ritz or Claridge's, where they do like a big performance of it and you have to dress very properly. It's not cheap. You go to these places and it's really rather expensive. I think it's something like £80 per person, something ridiculous like that. But it's like a real spectacle and a real event, and you get to see how the other half lives. Personally speaking, I rather go to a traditional tea shop in the sticks, but if you're travelling to the UK, I'm guessing you're just going to London and you're never going to leave the territory of London. By the way, going to England and not leaving London is a total waste of time. All you're seeing is London, and London is to England what Paris is to France, or what New York is to the rest of America, or Moscow is to Russia. They are their own separate territories and they have nothing to do with the rest of the area. So please, if you go to England, get out of London, you know, get on a train, get on a bus, go to the West Country and see what England is actually like. So anyhow, that was 5 things that you should eat if you go to England. And if you eat those and you still think the food is terrible, well, tough. Take sandwiches next time. Bye for now.